So guys, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the latest edition of the Star Wars franchise, that would be episode 9 at this point. Can't believe that it's already been 9 episodes that we've gotten in the main story of Star Wars. But that being said, guys, it has been a ton of backlash to, the Rise of Skywalker and what is the conclusion of the Skywalker saga. So I'm going to give you guys, in this episode of the show, I definitely wanted to talk a good amount about Star Wars and just kind of my history within the Star Wars, franchise. I'm going to give you guys my review on the Rise of Skywalker, and that being said, I want to kind of give you guys some of my thoughts about what other people are saying about the movie as well. So that being said, at this very point, guys, at the time of this recording, the Rise of Skywalker has a 55% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But then the audience score is 86%. So there's definitely a discrepancy there, which I'm not sure if there's any foul play with that, whatever the case might be. But we're going to go based on the 55% that was given by critics. Well, that being said, guys, I think that it is absolutely just right off the bat, and we're going to get to this here. I'll kind of go in depth. I think it's ludicrous that it has 55%. I believe that this is a much better movie than 55% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Before we kind of really dive into this, though, so you guys kind of have an idea of what I already think about the movie, but before we get into all that, I want to give you guys my history in the Star Wars franchise. So, guys, I really came, I was growing up. I obviously watched the older Star Wars movies, 4, 5, and 6, and I enjoyed them. I wasn't as huge into Star Wars as a lot of people were. I liked them a lot. Now, when 1, 2, and 3 came out, the prequels, was when I kind of got a little bit more into it. Episode 1, I liked. I didn't think it was great. Episode 2, once again, I was like, eh. And then Episode 3 came out, and I loved Episode 3. So, out of those 6 movies, I liked the originals, but the prequels were kind of more relatable for me because they were in theaters and such when I was growing up. So, I was able to watch those. And then, of course, with the sequel trilogy, which of course is 7, 8, and 9, those have been, very exciting for me personally, just because, you get to see the hype, you get to watch, these movies in theaters, and just everything's bigger, in my opinion at least, in pretty much every aspect of these movies because of the technology now. So that being said, guys, here's the deal, okay? With 4, 5, and 6, I think they're great, but I think people really hold on way too much to nostalgia. And I guess I can, I'm definitely someone that likes nostalgic things as well. For example, when we talk about Call of Duty, which is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time, I like the older ones a lot. And when I say the older ones, I mean like Modern Warfare 2, COD 4. I also, of course, like Black Ops 2, the Black Ops series. But I like, those originals were really, really good to me. And there's really nothing that's really competed with those. Now, we have had some recently that are pretty good in my opinion, that being Black Ops 4 and Modern Warfare. So that's what I want to get to here. This is why Star Wars and Call of Duty symbolize very similar things to me, at least personally. Because obviously Modern Warfare 2 and COD 4 and Black Ops 2, those games weren't really the originals in the franchise. They were just, they're older obviously. But that being said, the original trilogy in the Star Wars saga, 4, 5, and 6, I thought that they were good, right? But never did I think that these were the best Star Wars movies. Now, of course, I will say that The Empire Strikes Back is certainly very close to my heart. It definitely it's probably my second favorite, maybe my third favorite now in the Star Wars franchise. Because Episode 3 is my personal favorite. Absolutely loved Episode 3 for a number of reasons, but the big one was that it was kind of neat seeing the dark side win in that aspect, because you don't really see that very much in movies nowadays. And so it just kind of felt, even though the story continued after episode 3, it was neat seeing the dark side kind of win in that. And it also was neat seeing Anakin turn into Darth Vader. And I just thought that all of that combined, Natalie Portman, even though I didn't think her role was great as Padme, but I really love her as an actress. She's one of my favorite actresses. So just seeing her in there, obviously Hayden Christensen, I don't think that he was the best, Anakin. A lot of people really did not like him as Anakin Skywalker. I thought he was all right, but I thought he got better in episode 3 when he was really, starting to turn into, the character we know as Darth Vader. So episode 3, guys, I believe even to this point is still my favorite Star Wars movie. Number 2, of course, like I said, is most, it's hard to say, but definitely The Empire Strikes Back. Love The Empire Strikes Back. I think that's a fantastic movie as well. My favorite of the original trilogy. But I gotta say something, guys. It's gonna get me to my review of The Rise of Skywalker. I would have to say that The Rise of Skywalker is either my second or third favorite Star Wars film made. Period. This was such a good movie, and it is insulting that people are talking such trash about The Rise of Skywalker. It's unbelievable. I really, when I look at this movie, sure, there's a lot of sweaties out there who are, who will kind of go into everything about, they didn't show Finn enough, or, all the mythology within Star Wars and such. But from a pure viewership perspective, from a entertainment perspective, which is what movies are at the end of the day, this was an incredibly entertaining movie. I thought that it wrapped up everything pretty well in the Skywalker saga. This notion that this was one of the worst is blasphemous. I mean, it is absolutely ludicrous that people are stating that this is one of the worst, because the ratings, based on at least the critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, is stating that it's one of the worst that's been made at this point. It's kind of down there with like The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, which is absolutely crazy. The Phantom Menace, in my opinion, was probably the worst Star Wars movie ever made, in my opinion. It's kind of down there with me with The Last Jedi. I did not like The Last Jedi, guys. I thought The Force Awakens was great. But that being said, putting it down there, with the Attack of the Clones and such, is crazy to me. And I don't understand why. I've watched a lot of videos and such, a lot of people trying to explain why they didn't like the movie, or really didn't like the sequel trilogy. But I would have to say personally, guys, that they did a phenomenal job with this movie, really just kind of wrapping up the Skywalker saga. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought the acting, okay, let's get to the acting, guys. The acting is so much better than any of the other Star Wars movies that have been made, and it's not even close, okay? You talk about the original trilogy. If you watch those movies and you are being completely honest with yourself, special effects aren't good, the acting is not good, and we understand that the special effects for its time was good, but that does not discredit the amazing effects that are in The Rise of Skywalker, even The Last Jedi, as well as The Force Awakens. So let's get that clear right here and right now. Okay, The Rise of Skywalker also, guys, so I thought the acting was pretty good all the way around. I know what they had to do with Leia. Obviously, that situation was difficult, but I thought they did a pretty damn good job for what it was, at least within, kind of just I thought it was pretty good, what they did. Even though it was somewhat noticeable at times, I thought it was still very, they did a really good job. So kudos to them for that. But 55%, guys. 55% on Rotten Tomatoes is crazy to me. I mean, this was easily my favorite sequel trilogy movie. So in the sequel trilogy, Rise of Skywalker was easily the best in my opinion. It's probably my second or third favorite Star Wars film ever made, because it just was really well done. Now, there are things within the movie that I did not particularly like, but there's in any movie, there's going to be things that you like and things you don't like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to say that this was not, I mean, this was definitely one of the better Star Wars movies that I've personally seen. I know everyone has their own opinions on this, but I really think that people are jumping on this bandwagon of a number of critics saying it's not good just because they didn't end it well, or because of what Rey says in the end, or because of the character arc of Kylo Ren, or because of Palpatine and like his role in the movie and stuff like that. I just thought that, sure, like, I understand there are things within it. I know there's a number of different portions of the movie that feel, kind of very set up and such. And we'll kind of get to that here later in the show when we talk a little bit about, a little bit of some spoiler talk. But I personally think, guys, that this was one of the best movies within the Star Wars saga. I mean, I had an absolute blast watching this movie, had so much fun with it. And sure, there were issues with it, but there's issues with any of the Star Wars movies. And to put that in 55%, I think is absolutely ludicrous. Now, 86% of the audience are saying that they really enjoyed it, and I'm certainly one of those people, but at the same time, I don't know where the discrepancy, like how that kind of came about. People are saying that there's some foul play with that. Nonetheless, I think it deserves an 86% rating as far as the critic score is concerned. I just don't see why. I've been watching all the Star Wars movies. I don't know all the ins and outs of the lore and such, but I thought for what it was, what they had to work with, and how they, finished things up, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was incredible. It was way better than Last Jedi. I thought it was even better than The Force Awakens, and I have a big kudos to give out to J.J. Abrams, because I thought that he did a tremendous job ending it, kind of wrapping everything up. Sure, there were things that, little coincidences where he was, maybe taking shots at Rian Johnson for The Last Jedi, but come on, let's be real. Like, people look way too much into it, and it's a very toxic community that is the Star Wars community. Unfortunately, it's become a very toxic community. You're not going to please everybody, but I thought they did an incredible job, to say the least. But let me know what you guys think about The Rise of Skywalker. What did you guys, think about it? Let me know in the comment section below.